toxic air pollutants, and not one of the recommendations included reduction in emissions from natural gas operations. Many of these, perhaps, they're listed on your 188 list. And according to the chief engineer of TCEQ, and I quote, "We're not here to discuss natural gas. We're here to discuss ozone." Obviously, they still haven't figured out the formula for producing ozone. Next. This slide is from industry, and what I wanted to show you quickly here is that the latest Barnett Shale well completion on the bottom is a 12-stage process now. Each of those stages typically have 18,000 barrels of water associated with the 12-stage. It is not a closed casing 12-stage, and if you calculate it, it's 9.5 million gallons. What goes down must come up, and that is what we're seeing. Next. Of the 13,000 wells that they're proudly talking about completing so far, next we have several different potential emissions. They are the pad sites, which have off-road vehicle, particulate matter, etc., drilling processes, fracking process, and of course the completion. Next. I call these the triple threat. We have methane, we have BTEX, and we have hydrogen sulfide compounds that break down to compounds that are carcinogenic, known carcinogens, and neurotoxins. This is TCEQ's latest ESL. In 2008, benzene was increased from 75 micrograms per cubic meter, 25 ppm, to 54, 136% increase. And yet benzene is a known carcinogen. In 2008, I wonder what was going on. Next. TCEQ's ESL increased in 2008, once again, carbonyl sulfide. Carbonyl sulfide is a product of emissions due to air emissions from natural gas. It was an 1,016% increase. Why would they choose carbonyl sulfide? TCEQ has failed and continues to fail to protect human health and protect the public. Next. Ironically, we talk about reliable, or the industry talks about reliable data, and TCEQ has put up a GC up in Dish, Texas. And I'd like to read you off some quick values that you'll see. First of all, the GC, we did a simultaneous reading on one day in the last month. And our benzene levels were at 2.26, but the GC reader barely measured above 0.70. Toluene was at 25.9. These are all ppb's, by the way. Toluene, according to TCEQ, was 0.64. Ethyl benzene was 4.7. TCEQ's highest was 0.10. Xylene was 11.70. TCEQ's was 0.24. Styrene was 3.58. TCEQ's was 0.03. Xylene was 1.04. TCEQ's was 0.07. 1,3,5-trimethylbenzene was 1.37. TCEQ's was 0.04. And 1,2,4-trimethylbenzene was 1.18. TCEQ's was 0.09. We have a difference of opinion, and the opinion is called science. It's called accurate science versus inaccurate science. It's called politically jaded science versus accurate science. We have no compounds in there that were hydrogen sulfide related or carbonyl sulfide or carbon sulfide or anything else. If you don't look for them, they can't exist. So we continue to talk about methane, next slide, we continue to talk about benzene and all these lovely things that happen, and next slide, and I come back to the history of benzene since 1903, and I wonder why is this not a federally regulated compound at this point? There is no statement that can say benzene is not toxic and not carcinogenic, except for some economists that do declare that it has no relevance to any health issues, except for the fact that we've got numerous children across this area, numerous people across this area, that are bearing the costs of industry and inequality in their cancer-related costs. $400 to $1,500 per day in hospital stay for one child. And it takes 30 days, by the way. $1,500 to $2,000 per day for cancer treatments, $20,000 for a spinal tap. It takes 12 for one child to go through the procedure. That doesn't account for the pain. That doesn't account for the loss of that child's life in the future. There's a 30% mortality rate for many of the cancer treatments. So, what burdens and costs to the general public are we talking about? And what burdens and costs are the industry talking about? I do not see an equality here. I see a graphic inequality that has occurred over the many years previously, and I would encourage you to take over where TCQ has refused and where the Railroad Commission has refused for the future of our children and for the future of the state. I am a mineral right owner. I own minerals, and I will donate every penny I have to the children in the Flower Mound area that are bearing the unequal costs of this situation. They didn't ask for it. I would gladly give my mineral rights back if somebody would just stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. We have 3 more speakers signed up. 3 more speakers. We'll bring 2 down right now. Jim Schoenbeck and Beverly Branham, please.
Howdy, my name is Jim Schoenbeck. I'm here as Director of Down Members at Risk, and I just want to make an observation that I just asked people who want to lecture me about the last 20 years of firefighting Midlothian to please shut the heck up if you weren't there and don't know what you're talking about. In 2010, if you think the marketplace still is perfect, I just don't know what to say. I first became fully aware of the impact of Barnett Shale air pollution when a person whose judgment I greatly respect wrote a groundbreaking report that inventoried such pollution for the first time. His results were harshly criticized by the state of Texas until they were confirmed by the state of Texas, reluctantly and grudgingly. Their first reaction was to deny that it could possibly be that big of an inventory. Unfortunately, that kind of knee-jerk protection of industry by state government is why we need federal nationwide stricter regulations. Indeed, the Railroad Commission and the Texas Air Control Board, the predecessor to today's TSEC, were created by the Seven Sisters oil companies to specifically forego federal regulation. If you read the history about how these Texas state agencies were created, they were basically set up by Mobil and Texon and Shell to avoid the EPA coming down here and writing roughshod and giving them tougher regulations to abide by. I have found over the last 20 years of my work in the North Texas environmental scene that the biggest purveyor of junk science is the state of Texas. The air pollution from the Barnett Shale should be of concern to EPA for 2 reasons: contribution to the smog problem and increasing ambient levels of poisons. I get into the habit of calling it myself emissions or pollution, but these are actually poisons that we're talking about. In terms of smog, the Barnett Shale emissions include the 3 main ingredients of smog: NOx and PM and VOCs. The volume is unquestionable at this point, at least 150 tons per day, as much as the entire DFW passenger fleet puts out. But really, we have no idea because we don't have an official count yet, either of the facilities or of the emissions coming from these facilities, and we may not have, as Ms. Beving referred to, by the time the first SIP is ready to go. We may not yet have an accurate count. And this is how well this industry has been regulated in the state of Texas. They can't even tell you what the emissions are. I noticed that the industry had a slide noting where the non-attainment areas in this country were. I regret that they didn't overlay that slide with where the gas plays also were, because when you overlay those 2, those are exactly the areas where air progress is being rolled back by the drilling of gas wells. In DFW, the most chronic levels of ozone in the area are in the northwest quadrant of the Metroplex, basically from 360 to I-20. There in where Decatur, Eagle Mountain Lake is, where Parker County is, that's where you have the highest concentrations of ozone and where you have the most violations. And guess what? That's exactly where the greatest concentration of Barnett Shale activity is right now. It's endangering the air for 5 to 6 million people. It is not a cleaner source of energy if you're in an area where gas is being mined. In fact, it's rolling things backwards. We're having a more serious air quality problem here because of air drilling than lack of it. What should be done? Electrification as much as possible, vapor recovery, SCR in all diesel engines. 90% plus reductions are possible. They're just not being demanded here. They should be in rural areas as well as in urban areas. What you can do as EPA is not accept a SIP without these controls in it. Do not approve a state implementation plan for this area or any other non-attainment area with gas in it that does not have 90% controls on these facilities. The second problem is toxicity, and this is the latest chapter in the sordid and sad history of public health in this country. There is a continued myth that industry would like you to believe that there is such a thing as a safe level to a poison by which anyone can be exposed with minimal significant damage. This is a myth, and science has taught us that this is a myth. And local lessons have taught us that this is a myth. Look at the lead situation in West Dallas, where there were levels there that were perfectly safe and legal, and yet 50 years later we know that they weren't, that there is no safe level of exposure to lead. There is no safe level of exposure to particulate matter. Even now the EPA is bringing ozone standards down. We know nothing about the synergistic effects of these chemicals when they're acting together. We don't know much about nonlinear exposures, about cumulative synergistic effects. Traditional risk assessment covers none of this. And we're just now waking up to some of the real-world consequences of combining so many chemicals together at one time. Small stuff adds up. We're already exposed to 80,000 different chemicals in the market. This is not made better by now planting 17 to 50,000 small toxic industrial sites throughout the fourth largest metropolitan area in the country. Put them near homes, schools, playgrounds, hospitals, each of them emitting carcinogens, neurotoxins, endocrine disruptors. The people who live near these facilities are harmed, but we end up all swimming in a sea of poisons, none of which we actually know how are affecting the human body. Small stuff adds up. Please don't stop at 9% reductions because the smog problem, make it zero emissions the goal. Electrify things that need to be electrified. Put on 100% vapor recovery systems. Start implementing the precaution principle that has this simple preschool idea at the base of it, that if you don't know what the effects of something are, don't put it into the environment. That seems so simple, and yet we violate this principle every day, and the EPA needs to put it as a founding principle from here on out. You need to ban these facilities from close proximity to people, ban them from exceeding certain densities. You need to count cumulative exposures. This rule that was just passed by TSEC grandfathers all the wells that are already here. It doesn't affect them at all. Your rules could keep that from happening. A national inventory, transparency in recording what these chemicals are and what they're using. And finally, a ban of hydrofracking itself. You know, we had gas drilling in this country before 2005. I'm sure it can exist without the exemption that was granted in the energy bill that year. Small stuff adds up. The Sue Pope Foundation, which is a foundation run by Downwinders at Risk, decided not to grant any more money to any more natural gas projects after giving some grants out to convert natural gas vehicles. We did so because of the impact locally here to air quality in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This fight is a lot like our fight in terms of what the public and industry responses to it has been. I just ask you to do your job as a federal government. Come in the way that you always have to, it seems, in Texas, whether it's to correct the education